I saw that you guys have a Charlie Kirk picture outside, so I thought I would just read you some of his best quotes that I personally find very touching. We'll start with this one. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. These are direct quotes. I'm not adding any words, okay? Women should not work, but instead serve their husbands and raise children. It's awkward, right? Let's sit in the silence of that for a second. If my 10-year-old daughter were raped and became pregnant, I would not allow her to have an abortion. You should look at me when I'm reading these to you.
I'm just taking notes.
Yeah, let's keep eye contact while I read you these uncomfortable quotes from the guy you idolize. Okay? He referred to transgender individuals, which are human beings, as a, quote, throbbing middle finger to God. Would God say that? I don't think God would say that. Birth control has created very angry and bitter young ladies, and women in their early 30s, they're past their prime. How old is Erica Kirk? The widow? Is she staying at home? Doesn't sound like it. Maybe she's with J.D. Vance. Abortion is our modern Holocaust. If a 6-week-old fetus is not alive, then what does abortion do to the fetus? That's like saying an 88-year-old with dementia isn't really alive. It's a great guy, right? It's a great man to idolize, to put on every other Republican door in our state capitol. A man who doesn't believe in the civil rights movement.
My favorite thing I ever saw of Charlie Kirk, I think
Charlie Kirk was an outspoken advocate for faith, family, and freedom. Many disagreed with him, some were offended. Tragically, on September 10th, he was assassinated in an attempt to silence his voice. But when has political violence ever been the solution? It destroys dialogue, it undermines democracy, and it breeds fear instead of understanding. True progress comes from persuasion, not intimidation. As we grapple with our personal response to this, may we be honorable in our actions. May we fiercely defend the right of our opponents to speak freely. And may we join our hearts with Charlie's family, his wife Erica, and his 2 young children. Rest in peace.
You know, that standing ovation that we heard for the deceased C. Kirk, um, that standing ovation didn't happen in the Oval Office or on Monument Hill in DC. It actually happened right here in Kanata, you done know, in the House of Commons on Parliament Hill in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. Now, for a country that prides itself and promotes and fosters diversity and multiculturalism, I'm just going to rebrief you on a couple of the core values that they say they embrace in that very House of Commons. So the first one is that they say on paper that Kanata embraces people from many cultural, racial, and religious backgrounds, and that multiculturalism is officially recognized in law and celebrated as a strength. Well, I beg to differ. The strength is that the elite, those with privilege, they're the ones with all the strength up here in the north, not anyone that is outside of that ethnic group with a different religious background outside of Catholic or Protestant. And yeah, some things just look real pretty on paper, you know. And for the deceased C. Kirk to say that a mistake was made in 1964 when the Civil Rights Act was passed, let me tell you how atrocious that is. And for a country like Canada to say they embrace diversity and multiculturalism, let me tell you why. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, it was a landmark law that actually outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in areas like public accommodations, restaurants, schools, libraries, employment. It was a major legislative achievement of the civil rights movement, which aimed to dismantle segregation and guarantee equal rights for all Americans, especially Black Americans. So the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prevented unequal voter registration, racial segregation in public facilities, and employment discrimination. Now, you heard the lady at the start of the little video clips we just listened to when she read out the beliefs of C. Kirk, and for Kanata to get up in the nation's capital and applaud a man that said a mistake was made in 1964 when the Civil Rights Act was passed and brought into power because of Martin Luther King and that big march on Washington. What does that tell you about the soil on which we stand and the people that govern this region? They go on to say that their core values are equality and human rights. If you believe in equality and human rights, why would you applaud a man who's not even of Kanata heritage? He's a south of the border, south of the North American border, and you applauded some rotten hearted man who had that to say about the Civil Rights Act of 1964? A mistake was made. What does that mean? That Black people should always stay on the other side, should always be oppressed, should always be abused mentally, verbally, and in any way possible? Are you applauding such a man? And you want to tell me to look at your core values up here in Canada and expect us to believe you believe in equality and human rights? They say there's a strong emphasis on equality before the law. So they claim, oh, gender equality, rights and protection from discrimination. Yet you stood up in the private quarters of the House of Commons up here on Parliament Hill and applauded a man who deemed the Civil Rights Act a mistake. So, what does that tell you about the political leaders that we celebrate Thanksgiving for? Our political leaders who say we're about humanitarianism, equality, and all of that. It just tells me, you know what? That the paper that their core values were written on and their Charter of Rights of Freedom is worth less than used toilet paper in a gas station. You know what? I will never deem this cold ass country my home. I will always rebuke my citizenship. I would even give it away as a donation. I'm ashamed, and there's nothing proud to be a Canadian. That's in my point of view, because every single law, every single constitution, every single legislation, and especially on catlocks, their stupid ass core values, they are full of the crap that you would find splattered in a dog park. I don't need to say no more, yo. I don't consider myself a Canadian. I consider myself a Black woman, a child of God who has to look to the cross, because before I believe in any book of legislation or Charter of Rights and Freedom, you can have my citizenship. And you know what? I'm so glad when they tell us, when these folks say, Go home. You don't belong here. You're right, we don't belong there. Only demonites belong here. Because if you could applaud someone in your House of Parliament and look down your nose and say other countries are third world and you feel elite and civilized, well, you need to look in that mirror, because mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the biggest liar of them all? The flag with that maple leaf and the red and white background. That's who is the biggest liars of them all. One day I will make it home, you done know. And if I don't, once I'm in my grave, I'll be free, you done know. Because the soil on which we stand, this whole entire continent, they're not about freedom and equality. This is their equality. Palm colored hand people up here, my people down here. Why would I want to stay here? One day I will make it home, and I'm hoping many more of you coming this February. You're not just gonna recite Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Patrice Lumumba. What you need to do is go back into the history books and realize what they stood for and represented and what they tried to teach us. Right now, we have the little bit of freedom that we could pack up and leave such a treacherous place. This whole continent was developed on lies, murder, blood, the blood of our people, the blood of the indigenous. They robbed it from the indigenous, and then they came and abducted us and sold us into human trafficking. In what year? 1562. Black people were human trafficked to build up your stuff while you sat on the porch drinking mint julep. Let them have it. Because if we built this, it wasn't them, you know. All they did was sit on the horse and say, boy, you get your ass back into them cotton fields and pick, nigga. Okay, we built this up. Imagine what we can do if we bounce and go back to where we come from. Don't worry, colored folk. I will take you up on your command. You done know. This was just my thought today. I don't know if it was the cornbread and the potato salad that just got me thinking. You done know. But instead of just calling out iconic names in the history of Black people in February, start living by their words. You done know. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.